Behind me is a fully finished IKEA kitchen, and today I'm going to show you how to customize this island to make it look top-notch. Hey everyone, I'm Kody with Up to Code. Now today we're actually going to show you how we made this island look so good. And I want to point out in advance, take a look around, because what we did is we used full panels, we butted them together. There's no trim pieces vertically, there's no trim pieces at the floor. The panels just fit tight to the flooring. It looks custom, nice and clean. And we're going to show you actually how to do it so you can do it yourself. And so yeah, let's jump in and I'll show you all the steps that we took to get to this stage. So we have this island, you're looking at it from the back side. We have a 15-inch here, a 36-inch sink cabinet, which we filmed how to build a lower IKEA cabinet as well. Now there's going to be a 24-inch dishwasher here with an end panel, and we're going to do a back panel, and it's going to be awesome. But we'll show you how we're going to do the panel system that works with the sizes that come with the system. Okay, so right here, this is a dishwasher panel. It is 26 by 36. And you can see that we've done our own plywood custom base. We have 2 or 3 videos on that. There's a few parts and pieces that are missing, like the little metal brackets that hang off the rail system are omitted, and these little plastic spacers are omitted. Our plywood base is flush on the sides. I've never done it this method before, but I want to use the full 26-inch width, and I don't want to cut anything. So in essence, what I'm going to do is I'm going to overhang the front 11/16. So I'm just going to show you real quick here. Now the floor is at a level, so we're going to just measure at the top. We have 11/16 overhang. So that way, if you can visualize, your drawer front will sit like that, and it's relatively flush with your panel. Looks custom, looks really good. This is going to simulate my back panel. This is the same thickness, same material. So I want this back panel to sit like so, and I want these sides to be just barely proud. But I want the 2 end dishwasher panels, no cutting, and then the back panel just butts into the sides. So what I'm trying to do is determine how much spacing off the back of my panels or the back of my cabinets I need to do. And so if you look carefully, I need 1 inch of space. Now, I hope that's clear of how we determined the gap, but I'll just try to describe it another way. If this is here, this is my panel, I want the side panel to be just barely proud, and I got to create and I got to fill this space. So technically it might be more like 15/16, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 sheets of 1/2-inch plywood. Now right now 1/2-inch plywood, all plywood's like ridiculously priced, so now we're just flaunting all the money we have. But anyway, 2 layers of 1/2-inch plywood. It's going to extend past behind the dishwasher. I'll show you that. Now if I have to back this panel up this way to get coverage, then I can just squeak it backwards and make sure that I'm totally going to cover my finished back panel that's going to sit here. So I lost my microphone there for a few minutes, so I'll just try to fill this in as best as possible. I need to mention this 3/8 plywood. So we use this plywood to fill the space between the finished back panel and the sides of the cabinet. Now this is important, you'll see in a few minutes when we add the other plywood that we're talking about. Once this panel's cut, we'll be able to fasten it through the panel and into the sides of the cabinet boxes. So right now I need to show you how to measure this 1-inch plywood that we're going to build and create to fill this space so that we can use these side dishwasher panels. To figure out my dimensions, I use my 6-foot level and I extend it past the dishwasher area. Now you can use a straight edge, a piece of plywood, or a 2x4 if you don't have a long level like this. So just make sure to overhang the level. Make sure that your level or your straight edge is sitting on top of the metal support brackets. This will just give you the most accurate dimensions. Extend the level past the cabinets 24 inches so you know where to measure down to the floor. Because remember, this floor is at a level. What I do is I just mark my level so I know exactly where 24 inches is. Then just measure down to the floor and do this across the whole back of the island so you know your shortest dimension, and that's what we're going to rip this 1-inch plywood to. So in order to figure out the length of the plywood, I made this little sketch to help us visualize. This is the top view looking down. So I'm going to leave a 24 1/8 inch space for the dishwasher. You can see from my sketch, these marks with the hash marks, those signify the end panels, those 26 by 36 dishwasher panels. So all we're trying to figure out is the dimension in between those. So from inside a finished panel to inside of those side panels. So in order to do that, I just hold my tape at 24 1/8 at the edge of the cabinet, and I pull my tape over to the right and basically just get that dimension off of the right hand side of the island. So that's the length of my 1-inch plywood, and we already know the height. So we're just going to cut that and get it into place. So anyway, we fasten these 2 layers of 1/2-inch plywood together. We cut them to size, we glued them and all that jazz. And actually it worked out really well that when I had the level there, it just planes through really nice. So that's going to be easy for me to figure out my side gable panels. So now that this is in place, this plywood, you have to make sure when you screw it together that it's fairly straight. We have a little bit of a wow going on here, so we have to straighten this out, and we'll have to get down low and put an L bracket on the floor just to hold this panel straight. So then next, we have a 36-inch by 96-inch cover panel. But those, the grain runs horizontally, and the end panels, the grain runs vertically. So we want this to match. So we want these to run vertically as well. So what we've done is we found center. Our panels are going to be 3 foot wide. So we're going to put a 3-foot panel right here. That'll be centered, and then we'll place that on first. Then we'll put this panel on, and it'll just be a hair proud of this. And then the side panel just butts into that. And same thing over here. So the left piece and the right piece will be the same size. And then while I'm talking about cutting and all that jazz, the floors are out of level. So what I'll do is I'm just going to measure from this point to the floor. I'm going to measure from over here to the floor, and we're going to taper cut the bottom of that sheet. So we'll show you those here in a sec. So Wayne and I are going to do some cutting, and we'll show you how we get this all put together and finished off, but we're close. So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. A couple things that have happened. When we attached this now 1-inch plywood to the back of the cabinets, I was 24 1/8 overhang here, which we wanted. Once we had it in place, I could see the top panel dead center. I pre-drilled a hole, so I pre-drilled it and I used a number 6 by 2-inch screw. And I just sunk it in and made sure it was below the surface. So I did that there, on this panel, and on the end. That was all set, it's all good. We're level across the top. Then all I did is I just measured. I went, okay, 15 5/16, made a nice parallel line, pre-drilled, screwed those. So I just did that there and a nice line here. So I knew I was always hitting the center of this panel. And you have to pre-drill. You have to pre-drill or it'll just split that melamine apart. So that's what we did there. And then this plywood was dished in a little bit. So we just held up, we call this planing it through. So we planed this through. We had to add this 45 piece just to keep it from bowing back in. And we still have to tweak it back a little bit, but when we get this side panel anchored to the floor, then we can kind of manipulate that and get it true. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. Now we got some panels to cut. One trick when you're finishing, always just put your drill on its side. Because guaranteed you'll kick it, dump it over, it'll scratch the floor or break your bit. So what I'm doing is, remember how we're going to put this 3-foot panel in the middle? So I'm screwing holes on either side. Now these are going to be a number 6 bit. When we put the panels on, we're going to screw from this side in and suck the panel in tight. So when I'm choosing my bit size, I want the size of the drill bit larger than the hole threads. So I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but the drill bit's bigger than the threads of the screw. Can you see that on my phone? My camera doesn't focus that well, so it's kind of a old junker unit. I don't want any resistance in this plywood, so that way this screw can freewheel through, so it's only sucking the finished panel in. So I got to clean all these off, make sure there's no debris or hangies. Now the difference in bit sizes is when I'm pre-drilling and screwing into these panels, I want the bit to be the size of just the shank, but smaller than the threads. So this you might have a hard time seeing, but that bit is just the size of the shaft of the screw. And if you slowly back off, yeah. So that the threads can grab the material, but it's pre-drilled so it doesn't split it apart. So that's kind of how you choose the differences on your drill bits. And so now we're ready to place this middle sheet, and yeah, we're gonna do it. So if you come here, this is 1-inch material, the back panel's 5/8. So when we screw this, when we're going through just our 1-inch man-made material, we're gonna be 1/2 inch into our finished panel. So that's perfect. We have 1/8 of room of play. We won't poke through the backside. Now here, it's kind of hard to see. We have back panel, we have 3/8, and then 1 inch. So you probably won't be able to see, but right there, material-wise, I have a full 1.5 inches of material. I might have to washer it just to be safe, but I'll use 2-inch screws whenever I'm going through the full thickness of the back panel. So remember the screw lengths before you start going crazy. If we blow holes through this, we're hooped. So anyway, let's do this. So Wayne and I, we went gung-ho. We have all the panels in place, and I'll show you how we did it all. First off, we just centered this 3-foot panel. So you can see the joint there. You can see the joint right here. So it's 3 feet wide. So we just placed that dead center of the island. We obviously had our holes pre-drilled. We'll show you all that from the other side here in a sec. Now what was nice about this, and I'll give you another idea as well, is this plywood was just super easy for me to just measure to the floor and make sure that I was parallel to the floor, and it was. So it's just a nice square, easy cut. Some of the other panels were tapered cuts. I'll get into that in a sec. Now, one thing you might want to keep in mind is if you don't want to use panels, you don't have to. You can still use the plywood trick, and then you can tile to it or stone to it. You can do anything to these IKEA islands. So anything's possible, but we'll just show you how we did this panel system. Okay, so once this one was placed and screwed, then it was easy. I guess we'll go here. Now I had something stationary to measure from. So I could butt my tape measure at the top, and I measured over to the edge of the panel, but I made sure that when I measured it so it was proud. So that way when I put this panel on later, it was always a super tight connection here. So all I did is I measured the top, I went to the bottom, I measured the bottom. This was luckily a nice parallel cut, so I cut that on the table saw. Once I had this width, then obviously I just measured from the plywood to the floor, plywood to the floor. This one was parallel, so it was all just nice, easy square cuts. So then that one was in place. We knew we were proud. We knew this panel was going to look good. Then over here, same thing. We had the panel here where we had something stationary to measure from. Came over here, added a little bit. You can see that we're proud. But we didn't, either way, we're maybe more proud than I wanted to be, but we also didn't want to risk cutting it twice. A, being too short, or B, chipping it all to heck. Now this one, when we measured it to the floor here and to the floor right here, and it was out. So the floor is out of level. And so I just use a skill saw, good side down, clamps. I'll make another video on how we cut tapers and finish panels. But basically, yeah, you just use a circular saw, clamps, straight edge, good side down, because a circular saw cuts on the upstroke. So anyway, you can see that edge looks super tight and clean. And then next was just putting the side panels on. And that's the whole premise of this video, is making and using the IKEA 26 by 36 inch panels for full width. We don't have to get and chase the finished corners around. And yeah, it's super custom. The only thing we had to do is cut the height. So then when we came over here, I just stuck my 6 foot level. I let it overhang. The level was sitting true with the rest of the cabinets, and I just measured to the floor here. And then I just measured to the floor at the back and cut it accordingly. And same with the other side. It was pretty easy if you come around. And this panel was really simple. Again, just measure it, cut it accordingly to the floor, clamp it into place, and then we just screwed it in, and that's about it. So let's show you how it worked from the other way. So the first panel, and did I mention that this is vertical grain? So when I put the 36 by 96 panel, I couldn't just flop it sideways because that grain would have been running this way. So that's why they're 3 foot wide, because we took a sheet this way and cross cut it. So yeah, I might as well cover that again. So this is the 3 foot width here. So here and here. And so you can see I have 2 rows of screws here. So the panel's sitting in between. So this row of screws is catching here. And then on the other side where the dishwasher is catching the other panel. This is down the center right here. Now, these are 2-inch screws. I mentioned this before, but I had to go through the back panel, a 3/8 panel, the 1-inch, and then feed into the finished back panel. And that's why we pre-drilled all those, so that those screws weren't hanging up on anything. And when we tightened it, it just pulled the back panel in nice and tight. Now you can see we didn't utilize all the holes, but I figured I only have one chance to drill them. I did extra holes just in case these back panels weren't sitting flush, and then I could manipulate via the torque of each screw and just suck the panels and make them nice and flush. But they sat really true, so I just used bang, bang, bang. So yeah, once I had this panel on, then the rest, it was just easy. Like, I feel like I don't need to describe it a whole bunch more than that. In here you can see these holes. Yeah, so all these ones that go through the back panel were 2-inch screws. They were used a number 6. And I used washers just because I was a little bit worried about poking through the backside. And then over here, I just had to remember not go the squirrel brain, 1.5-inch screws for anything in here. And then while we're talking about it, normally I'm not a big fan of L brackets, but we just went to town on the L brackets in here. And that's what we used to just suck this corner in. Because with a dishwasher, you don't have a lot of extra room for lumber. So if I would have put a piece of plywood as backing and made an L tie and tried to screw it from this way, I feel like sometimes you run out of space. So L brackets in a dishwasher works for me. And that's how we did it. So let's wrap this up with a nice finished countertop. And that's a wrap. See how easy that was? It's all finished and beautiful now. No, but I think it's important that those little details should help you guys do it yourself at home. Let me know if there's anything we missed, any content that you want to see in the future. And with that, we're going to sign off. Thanks for tuning in. Just don't forget to buy some merch one of these days, people. Come on. subscribe, like, and we'll stay in touch. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. 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 Turd. We went from high quality, nothing in the background to let's get this done.
All right.